Hey y'all, today we're going to sort of combine a couple ideas that we have talked about recently and in the past. So in the past we divided polynomials, and recently we've been factoring polynomials. And so we're going to combine those two ideas. So we are going to divide. Um, in the past we didn't have two terms that we were dividing by. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and divide by v minus 8. So I'm going to rewrite that so it looks like division that we're used to. And then what I want to do is I want to factor this numerator, the top of my fraction, completely. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to graph that, and I'm going to find its factors. So when I graph this, I get x equals -1 and x equals +8. And I'm going to use v. And so from what we've been doing now for a little while with our factors, we know that we need to move that over, and that becomes v plus 1. Move this over, and it becomes v minus 8. And those are our two factors for the top quadratic expression. So I'm going to rewrite this as the two factors, v plus 1, v minus 8. And on the bottom, we have v minus 8. And so in the past, we're able to divide by things that we have in common. So I now have a v minus 8 on top and a v minus 8 on the bottom. I'm going to put it in parentheses to make this look consistent. And so these things up here are being multiplied, and so I can actually cancel out those two things that are the same, and what I'm left with is v plus 1. So when I divide this quadratic expression by this binomial, I get v plus 1. That's all that's left over. So let me show another one. We'll show a couple. I always want to rewrite this, and maybe I'll put that in parentheses and this in parentheses just to make it so that we end up with parentheses at the end. So I'm gonna graph this and find its zeros. That will help me find its factors. So when I graph this thing, I get -1 and 3. So x equals -1, x equals +3. And I want to find the factors, so I'm going to solve these two equations so that everything's on the left. So I get x plus 1 and x minus 3. And sorry, I left out the equal zeros over here. It's okay. Because what we care about is this part, x plus 1 and x minus 3. Well, I'm going to turn them back into p's, but so on top, that turns into p plus 1 and p minus 3. On the bottom, we have p minus 3. And so since we have these two things in common on the top and the bottom, we can cancel them, and we're left with p plus 1 as our answer. So I'll do one more. I'll use parentheses. I want to factor that top quadratic. So I'm going to graph it and find its x-intercepts. So when I graph, I get -1 and -2. So I get x equals -1 and x equals -2. And so we are going to move the -1 to the left to make it +1. Move the -2 to the left to make it +2. If you're still struggling with that, make sure you get some help. Make sure you raise your hand and ask for some help. I have my two factors, x plus 1, x plus 2. And so since we have the x plus 1 on top and the bottom, we can cancel them out, and we're left with x plus 2, and that is our final answer after we divide. So what I want you to do now is I want you to try this one. If you're really stuck, what I want you to do first is ask for help. If you're ready to, try this one. Pause the video, try this one. N squared minus 9n plus 8 divided by n minus 1. When you're done, press play and check your answer. So hopefully you got n minus 8. Check your work. You should have gotten n equals 1, n equals 8, or x equals 1, x equals 8, because you had to use x in the calculator here. We can cancel those n minus 1s, and we're left with n minus 8. That's our final answer after doing this division. As always, if you do have questions, if you want me to re-go over how I did this, you can always raise your hand and ask for help. I really encourage you to do that. Make sure you stick around and answer the questions associated with these 4 problems so you can get full credit, show me that you've learned something. And then, of course, you need to reinforce these ideas by practicing them, so make sure you move on to the practice when you're finished. And again, ask for help if you need it. Good luck.